10 things that sleepers do, without walking in their sleep. Sleep is usually a peaceful activity. When we go to bed at night, most of us do not see the need to lock our doors or hide our keys. And we do not remove the refrigerator or lock the sharp objects. But in 1% of adults who regularly fall asleep, e.g. at least twice a month, closing your eyes at night can be strange and sometimes painful. Their families before finally get back to bed. Some people do very strange things. 10 have sex. Sexsomnia is an old condition for people to engage in sexual activity while sleeping. Without realizing it, sufferers can have sex alone or with a partner and never remember it when they wake up. Both men and women experience this condition, although it is more common in men. 2. Sex can be a very dangerous situation, both for the patient and for those close to him, as they cannot understand consent issues. In 2007, a judge fired a Royal Air Force flight mechanic after finding out he had a sexual problem. Kenneth Eckett rides naked over an unconscious girl after a drunken party. Assistant judges admitted that she was in a spontaneous state at the time of the rape. However, it appears that the judges will not be able to withdraw unless the defendant is able to prove that they had written evidence of parasomnias before being charged with rape. 9 drive just as people walk around sleeping, so it is possible for them to drive. Sleep drivers often travel important distances in their sleep. It is not known how common this is, and how many road accidents are caused by witches. It is possible that while sleepwalks are well versed in driving equipment, they will not be able to use advanced skills such as roaming and will be driving with autopilot only. 3. And, of course, not only sleepers can drive, but they can also drink and drive. In 2012, UK resident Becky Mason had a friend at her place and drank several glasses of wine before bed. Afterward, he drove 8 kilometers to his office in his pajamas and was told by a security guard that it was Saturday night and that he should not be working until Monday morning. He returned to his car and headed home, only to hit the light. Her blood alcohol level was 3 times higher than her legal limit. At his trial, a security guard was a key figure in his defense, and he was found guilty of driving under the influence of alcohol. After the disruption, he made sure to hand over his car keys all night, in case they happened. 8 kill. In 2009, Brian Thomas of Wales was acquitted of murdering his wife after strangling her while she slept. Thomas had suffered from nightmares for 50 years and often slept in a separate room from his wife, but they had gone on vacation and slept in a bed in their van. He stopped taking them during the trip because they reduced his libido. They were enjoying a good night, only to be interrupted by gangsters of young men chasing cars near their van. Shortly after their bedtime, Thomas had a nightmare in which young men broke into a van, and he dreamed that he was protecting his wife from their attack. Sadly, he was actually strangled. Thomas made an emergency call in confusion, saying he had strangled his wife while she slept. Not naturally, their victims are usually their partners. In 1845, Albert Terrell became the first person to successfully use sleep-depriving methods in the United States, after killing his wife, and setting fire to the brothel where they slept. Who in 1987, drove 20 miles, 12 miles, from his home to his father-in-law, beat his mother-in-law to death, and tried to strangle her father-in-law. He also got into his car and drove to the nearest police station. The case has caused controversy, especially since Parks had financial problems caused by his gambling addiction. He had just lost his job because of financial losses. Subsequent studies by sleep investigators, however, showed that his sleep was severely disturbed, which, combined with the stress of his gambling addiction, was enough to create a violent episode of sleep with such serious consequences. 4. 7. Unplugged. Getting naked in public is a common nightmare, but for many sleep-deprived, it can become a reality. The problem seems to be almost exclusively for men, in hotels, at any rate, and confused guests arriving at their birthday reception desk will ask for a wake-up call or try to get out. Employees now keep towels in their hands to maintain the humility of their guests and their keys to pay for them to return to their rooms. 5. It is thought that stress may increase the likelihood of a sleep disorder, alcoholism, or an unfamiliar environment. It can escalate and lead to further confusion. Sleepers may not believe that they are at home or that they have entered the bathroom or entered the private balcony, and in fact, they roam the halls entirely. 6. Speak. Most almost everyone is asleep at some point. However, some people hold full conversations in private. Sleep talking, or somniloquy, may seem like the perfect gibberish for those who are awake but seem completely sensible to the sleepwalker. Although somniloquy is unlikely to cause significant damage, it may be embarrassing to those suffering from the disease. Walking can be for families. It can be exacerbated by sleep deprivation, stress, and drug and alcohol abuse. 6. Researchers have found that many sleepless nouns have negative connotations, such as no, and there are many obscenities. Many sleepers talk, they seem to have the wrong mouth, but despite what the movies will make us believe, people believe they rarely reveal their dark secrets in their sleep. There is no evidence that the so-called sleep theory is based on fact. Indeed, in 2001, the Massachusetts Supreme Court overturned a humiliating assault sentence when they found that the first judge had discriminated against them after hearing that one of the children in the case had exposed his sleeping abuse. 5. Get creative. Maybe there is something about the ignorance that motivates creative juice. In 2015, a 13-year-old girl was recorded playing the piano while she slept. Although he could clearly be heard snoring and putting his head on a straight piano, he could still make a sound. Sleepwalkers also contribute to fine art. Lee Hadwin did the job of selling paintings he made while he slept. He says he can't paint when he's awake but produces works of art in the middle of the night without remembering it in the morning. While critics are divided over whether his work is real art, or just boring, he still sells his work to clients around the world, including celebrities such as Donald Trump. 7. Although most art experts believe that true art requires the artist to know and respond, it seems likely that the brain performed certain creative tasks while the artist was asleep. 4. Live the dream. For many people, achieving a dream is usually a good thing. For those with REM behavioral disorder, RBD, however, it can mean something completely different. Usually, when we enter REM sleep, our brain blocks contact with our muscles, other than those in our eyes and the diaphragm, allowing us to breathe, by effectively disabling us while we sleep. REM sleep usually comes in cycles of about 90 minutes, so dreamers will experience 3 or more cycles per night. When RBD sufferers enter the REM sleep phase, their muscles are not crippled enough, and they mimic their dreams. This could include violence, laughter, or imitation during the day, such as packing suitcases for something imaginable. Sometimes, sleepy people will jump out of bed or run around the house. 8. Because the only truth a listener sees is what is in a dream, patients can injure themselves in real life without hearing it in a dream and not waking up. It's like a Matrix in retrospect. 3. Commit to armed robbery. In 2007, Maria Hudson fell asleep in front of the TV. She then put on pink rubber kitchen gloves and pulled the tights off her head. He walked 10 minutes to his nearest store, where he pulled out a 12-inch, 12-in kitchen knife and shouted, "Send me your money," in the same tone as Brad Pitt used in the film he had just watched. Hudson had no recollection of what had happened, but medical experts believed that the spontaneous madness was the result of his epilepsy. She was covered in my blood but said nothing, he recalls. When the police arrived, he appeared to be alive. Hudson was acquitted after the trial. 9. 2. Eat. People with a sleep-related eating disorder, SRED, can have a completely healthy relationship with lunch. But in their sleep, they will eat food that they did not eat when they woke up. It is common for SRED sufferers to fill themselves with high-fat foods and sugars such as peanut butter or syrup, squeezing them down very quickly before returning to bed without waking up. Not only do they eat, but sufferers of the disease often cook, too, which can lead to knife damage and burns. 10. Pedestrians can grab anything from a sandwich to a 3-course meal. However, even though they may appear to be alert, they are unlikely to know exactly what ingredients they are using, so eating a prepared food may not always be a good idea. One obvious result is that you may have gained weight. Some sufferers try to treat their eating habits by eliminating high-calorie foods, but they may end up eating more harmful substances. Sleepers have been found eating coffee grounds, bacon pigs, and paper and drinking toxic liquids such as bleach. In general, it seems that refrigerating chocolate is safer. 1. Balance, top of crane. One night in 2005 in London, A passerby saw a little girl in the arm of a crane, 40 feet, 130 feet, above the ground. Thinking he saw a suicide attempt, he warned paramedics. It was only found when the firefighter hid from him when it was discovered that he was asleep. Respondents were concerned that trying to rescue him would wake him up. The 15-year-old had already left home, boarded a crane, and crawled on a small beam asleep. Rescuers eventually found her cell phone and contacted her parents. They managed to call him and wake him up nicely, and the firefighters were well positioned to catch him if he fell. Although the girl was able to climb the crane in her sleep, it took a team of firefighters with a hydraulic lift for 2.5 hours to bring it back to the ground. 11.